This might not be the exact right way to start a podcast episode, but I was having a conversation with my partner about how our relationship first started. And he told me, and I quote, that you made me go through hell, which means I made him go through hell. And now this is not something I'm proud of, but the reason he said this was because, according to him, we could have a fun moment together where he was so sure that I felt the same way he did concerning the relationship, and maybe the next day I just suddenly changed and started acting so distant. Now, when he said this, I realized that this was something I did unconsciously, and it made true connection, which is very important in every relationship, very difficult for the both of us. And for me, why I acted that way was not because I didn't enjoy being vulnerable and communicating my feelings, but because I was scared. I was scared of a lot of negative things that came with having a relationship. I was scared of abandonment and neglect. I was scared of rejection and heartbreak. I was scared of intimacy generally. And maybe this is you too. Maybe the issue isn't that you don't want to be loved by someone, but that you're scared of being loved by someone. Maybe you long for closeness with a certain person, but you just find yourself pushing them away and you don't know how to stop. Maybe you're scared of being vulnerable and expressing your true self. Now, whatever category you fall under, today's episode is for you. And even if you're not the one that's scared of intimacy, but you're with someone that fears intimacy, today's episode is also for you. Welcome to Healthy Minds Talk, a podcast created to help you grow, bring awareness to mental health, and also remind you that it's not all in your head. There's hope, even when your brain tells you there isn't. I'm Praise Victor, and I remain your host on this show. All what I described at the beginning of this episode is known as fear of intimacy or avoidance anxiety. And it's basically when you're scared of having a close emotional or physical relationship with someone. And when I say intimacy, I don't just exactly mean sex, because intimacy isn't sex. Most people think that the only way to be intimate with someone is through sex, but intimacy is actually the ability to genuinely share the innermost or hidden parts of yourself with someone else and connect with them. Intimacy can be emotional by sharing your feelings with each other. It can be intellectual by sharing your thoughts and ideas with each other. It can be experiential by sharing activities and new experiences together. So no matter how complex it seems, intimacy is actually very necessary for the growth of every relationship, friendships included. And the fear of intimacy often starts when you realize that the person is getting too close, or you're getting too close to the person. When you realize that you've become emotionally attached to the person, you start behaving in ways that would push the person away. And this behavior can show up depending on the kind of relationship you have with this person, whether it's romantic or just platonic or even familiar, like family relationships. And fear of intimacy can manifest as you being silent about your thoughts and feelings, but engaging in passive-aggressive behaviors that leave the person hurt and feeling confused. You've been overly critical of this other person that's trying to be intimate with you. You having impossible expectations for the relationship, and then when these expectations are not met, you suddenly just cut ties with the person. You sabotaging the relationship when things are going very well, and probably just maybe you having trust issues and being the controlling person in the relationship. You are maybe insecure, and then you try to control the other person's behaviors and their movements in the relationship. And most times we subconsciously do these things to feel safe. We do it to feel safe from heartbreak, from rejection, from abandonment. And some researchers have even suggested that everyone has a fear of intimacy to a certain extent. But really, why are we scared of intimacy? Now, the first reason I'll say is because of negative childhood experiences. Now, if you experienced childhood emotional neglect, I've made an episode on that. You can go check that out. But if you experienced this during your childhood, that's like your emotional needs were either dismissed or received with shame and guilt, then you subconsciously adopted that belief that it's not safe to show those parts of yourself, especially if it happened on a consistent basis. Now, as an adult, without any experience of having that safe space to express your emotions, you'd have an automatic response to withdraw when situations demand vulnerability from you because it's unfamiliar and it's uncomfortable. And also, if you lost a loved one or your parents divorced at a young age, then you might struggle with abandonment issues, which makes it very hard to form emotional attachment as an adult. Another reason why you might fear intimacy is because of your past relationships. Now, a relationship therapist, Dr. Donna, said that we use our past to story what we think will happen in the future. And this is actually so true. Starting a new relationship, no matter how healthy, would always bring up memories of past relationships and their issues. And this acts as a trigger, inciting feelings of anxiety within us. So we either pull back as a response to prevent our past from, happening again, or we behave in ways that would make the other person give up on having a relationship with us. And this is so unhealthy. It's self-sabotaging. Another reason for fear of intimacy might be past trauma or abuse, similar to, past relationships or past experiences you've had that you want to prevent from happening again. And also, low self-esteem can actually be a reason for fear of intimacy. Now, in situations like this, when one has a low self-esteem, how the person interested in intimacy sees you might trigger some insecurities that would make you push them away. Let me put it like that. For example, you might struggle to see yourself the way they see you. And this can also be as a result of your childhood experience. If you didn't feel seen and understood as a child, you might have a hard time believing that someone actually sees you and values you as an adult. You might think that you're not good enough or you're not worthy of love, which can lead to you not trusting them and pulling away. So how can we overcome this avoidance anxiety or fear of intimacy? How can we embrace intimacy? Now, the first thing to do is to know the root of the fear. What are you really scared of? Are you scared of heartbreak? Do you think the more you care about this person, the higher your chances are of getting hurt? Or are you having self-esteem issues? Now, whatever the answer is, be honest with yourself. Don't be too scared to think deep about why you push people away when they get too close. If you notice these patterns have been happening in different situations with different people, you really should, take that step to become self-aware and know exactly why you do this. If we don't understand and confront our past, we'll just end up repeating the patterns that resulted in this fear. So after figuring out the answer, the next thing you can do is to accept uncertainty. Now, one of the reasons why fear of intimacy occurs is because we don't know how the relationship is going to end, right? We ask ourselves, is this going to be another heartbreak, or are they going to be the one I spend the rest of my life with? And because we never really know the answer to these questions, the fear of heartbreak makes us pull away. Now, I think that the best thing we can do in, situations like this is just to be intentional about our relationships. Instead of obsessing over the what ifs that could go wrong, just focus on living and creating new, exciting experiences and memories with this person. Another thing you can do is to share your fear with the other person instead of giving them mixed signals and just leaving them confused, engaging in passive-aggressive behaviors. And although this requires vulnerability, but that's okay. I understand that being open and honest about your feelings is hard. Trust me, I've been there more times than I can actually count, but no matter how scary vulnerability looks, it's very important. If you've been vulnerable with someone before and they didn't validate your feelings or reassure you on how much you matter to them, then I really do understand your current fear of that happening again. But you have to understand that, number one, it's a different person this time. And number two, vulnerability is needed for communication and strengthen relationships. So try as much as possible to take that step to be vulnerable with this person you're scared of getting close to. It might be you just maybe sending a voice note to them, telling them how you really feel, or sending a text. Whatever step you can take, you really should try that, no matter how little you think it is. Try opening up to this other person that you're scared of being intimate with. Another thing you can do is to be gentle with yourself. Now, your current fear of intimacy is not your fault, but it's a result of the unpleasant past experiences that you've had. And so don't judge yourself or switch to guilt and self-hatred for sabotaging new relationships. Even when you start working on building healthy relationships, be gentle with yourself. You need to take things slow on your healing journey. Give yourself time to feel your emotions and build a foundation of trust with yourself first, and then with your partner or the person interested in emotional intimacy with you. And if you're currently in a relationship with someone that's scared of intimacy, understand that it takes time to build that trust. It doesn't necessarily say anything about you if the person is pushing you away. But the most important thing you need to understand is that they need that safe space. They need safety. So help them feel safe enough to communicate their inner thoughts to you. It will be a heart-opening journey to let people in and just feel happiness. So to you who's scared of intimacy, instead of being scared, just take that risk, because the connection behind the risk is so much worth it. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please do not hesitate to share it with your friends, your family, co-workers, brothers, sisters, I don't know, whoever else you think needs this episode. And you might even share it with your partner, who knows? And you can also share a screenshot of it, you listening to it on Instagram, and tag me. I'd love to give you a shout out in next week's episode. And don't forget to follow this podcast on the podcasting platform you're using. Also, follow me on IG, of course. The link is in the description. Have a healthy mind till we talk again next Monday.